So good evening and good morning and good afternoon to everyone. I have a strange woman named Ondy Willson who will be giving us insights into our mind. And Venerable Dondra will be starting with, I believe, a prayer, correct?
No, I just would like to welcome Ondy on behalf of the center. She's a new teacher for us. Hopefully that association will continue and last for years and years. She is based in England. So she's been a touring teacher within FPMT since 2007, and she's an accomplished writer and author and teacher, and she started Yeshi Buddhist group also. So she's been in the Dharma, been teaching for many years, and this is just the first time that we're able to host her, but certainly we hope it's just the first of many more classes, and so we're really happy that she was able to accept our invitation to teach. So welcome to the center, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Venerable Dondra. That's a lovely introduction, and so really I don't need to say much more. We can have conversations as we go on. I've got 4 sessions with you, and I've prepared them in a way that is accessible to Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike. And so we're very open to discussion about this. And I'm hoping that we will have time to have some little discussion groups. I think we can go into breakout rooms, but we'll see how the time goes. I make these wonderful plans and then they usually go in another direction because I talk so much. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. So again, because I am not assuming your Buddhist background, and also because I also think that it's nice to get away from formal prayers, because sometimes it just becomes a blah, blah, blah that we're used to saying. And it's nice actually to think about what we're saying and say something different. So I'm going to avoid formal prayers for these 4 sessions, but just invite you to think about why you're attending and have a few minutes of silence, and I'll guide you through that silence before I start the teaching. And then after about half an hour of teaching, then I would like to, my intention is that you go into some breakout rooms and have some discussion, come back, feedback, questions and answers, and then hopefully have time for a meditation. But as I said, it all looks great on paper. We'll see how it goes. So it's lovely to join you. And as Dondrup says, I'm going all over the world at the moment with Zoom. But I do miss the travel, I must admit, but we have to think more carefully about that anyway. But who knows what the future holds? It's a very strange time we're living in. And I'm sure you're all dealing with your own strange issues, as well as being, meeting a stranger from the north of England. The climate here is quite cold at the moment, but I live amongst lakes and mountains. It's very beautiful. And I'm actually on the coast. So I'm very fortunate where I live. And I do have some Dharma friends around that go way back to meeting Lama Yeshe and in the very early days. And so really what I'm bringing to the table, I'm sure you all have different levels of knowledge and experience, is a kind of sharing of what I've learned as a teacher, but very much as a practitioner in a lay world. I'm a grandmother. I've just spent the weekend with my granddaughter, totally exhausted now, and she's 11, and I'm a mother, 2 grown children, and I've been working. My kind of day job has been a teacher for a long time, as well as training for many years in mindfulness, and as well as teaching Buddhism. So I very much feel like one of you. I'm not ordained. I didn't take that route. And it has some benefits, in that I kind of have the ordinary problems, yeah? And I'm sure, you know, ordained people do too, but trying to juggle, you know, this ordinary life of being a worker and a parent and a grandparent, with also trying to keep a spiritual life going, a spiritual practice going, and making that kind of your motivating factor in everything that you do. So that's me. That's all I want to say about me. Let's start now with a few minutes of quiet, thinking about our motivation for coming to the sessions. And then I'm going to share a PowerPoint, which is going to kind of lead us through the ideas that I'm going to present over the 4 weeks, and particularly today. Okay, if you'd just like to lower your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and generate a feeling of being comfortable and at ease. And there will be a spark of interest in a new person, but also feel that sense of me being totally like you. Another sentient being, another human taking advantage of her brain, what there is left of it, recognizing its potential and training it and practicing the Dharma as much as I can, just like you. Sunday morning for you, or afternoon, evening for me. Well, why are we doing this? Why do we take the time to think about that for a few minutes? What is it you hope for, wish for? What is it you usually gain from coming to these Buddhist sessions? And value them. Think how fortunate we are to be able to do this together, support each other, share the Buddha's teachings, contemplate their relevance in our lives, so that we can help ourselves and be of benefit to others. And then when you're ready, you can join the class. There we are. Okay, so let's start our discussion. So this little course of 4 weeks is called Getting to Know Your Mind. And it's a very difficult thing to do, to be frank, because we can't find it, basically. It's very difficult to track down the mind and get a grip on it, which is why it's such an interesting topic, really, And it's absolutely essential to basic Buddhist teachings, because unless we understand what the mind is and how it changes and its potential, then we can't train it. So really vital that we have a strong idea that when we talk about our minds, we know what we're talking about. We have a feel for it. So that's what this course is really about. So by the end of the course, and you may well have done or had teachings on this before, but every time we hear it, every time we contemplate it, discuss it, reflect on it, meditate on it, it just goes a bit deeper. We take it a bit deeper, and we'll all know that, that you can hear the teachings many, many times, the same teachings, and each time you hear them or you read them, you go, never got that before. So that's why it's so useful to us. So over the course of the 4 weeks, we're going to be looking at what we understand by mind. It has particular characteristics, and we'll be looking at that today. It's really important that we consider what the mind is, because the common understanding, particularly with scientific materialists and with neuroscience even, there's a lot of confusion with, is it the brain? What is the relationship between mind and brain? And that's absolutely vital as in terms of Buddhist psychology, because the brain is a physical entity which changes and of course dies when this body dies. So it's really important that we understand the difference, but nevertheless the important relationship. And then we'll be looking, I thought it would be quite interesting to look at, what the world today talks about. I like to look at, when people talk about spirit or soul, what the soul is, how it relates to the mind. So we've got a clarity, because there's a lot of loose language involved when people are practicing spiritual paths. If they're in a religious path, they've got more of a clear view of what they mean by, for instance, soul. But if you talk about the mind, then we're in dangerous territory again. We're still not sure. So I think it's quite useful to see the subtle differences in our understanding of these different labels. And then the whole purpose of this, once we've got a great foundation for understanding the mind, then we can start to see how we can know our own minds. And that might seem obvious, but actually we're well out of control, yeah? Thoughts are happening, ideas are going on, emotions are flashing around, and we're just living our lives on a kind of roller coaster. And, people do say, I know what I mean, I know my own mind, but actually not always. We can delude ourselves, we can kid ourselves that we know ourselves. And the distinction here is understanding the play of tension with the ego. So the ego is often kind of ruling the roost, and that the quiet voice, the kind of quiet, intuitive voice of our inner selves, which you could say is synonymous with mind, our inner self, is not being heard. We're not hearing it because the ego is so rampant. And that's one of the obstacles to knowing our mind. So we'll look at other obstacles which come with that, very, very strong-headed ego, such as the defilements, as we call them, the delusions, the destructive emotions, the kind of things that are hanging around in our minds and we just can't cleanse ourselves of them. When we can understand those obstacles, then we've got the ability to grow the potential of our own minds. And that's really what we want to do. A Buddhist practitioner is somebody who has understood through teachings, through hearing them, through reading them, probably through an intuitive feeling already that there's more to us than meets the eye. A Buddhist practitioner is somebody who recognizes that they can become Buddha, hence Buddhism. They can become Buddha. That is a huge potential that we all have within us, from the tiniest little creature to us human beings. Any sentient being has the potential to become Buddha. So once we know the obstacles, well, it's like any obstacle in life, isn't it? You know, you've got to, the best way to kind of find out how to defeat the enemy is to know it well. And really those obstacles are enemies. They're what's stopping us becoming enlightened. So if we know those obstacles, then we can start to train the mind and increase our potential for becoming enlightened, which is dealing with karma, dealing with defilements, really starting to cleanse, purify the mind so that we can attain realizations. Yeah? Okay. So this week we're looking at what is the nature of the mind. And first of all, we've got this whole assumption here. I've got a little gallery down the side, so I don't know whether you can see, but the image is like half heart and half brain. So that's a nice kind of way of approaching mind, because it does come from a place of whole goodness, compassion, which our heart represents, doesn't it? It is linked with the brain. So somehow, although the mind is not the brain, that is not the definition in Buddhism, which we'll go into further soon, although that's not the definition, mind is already suggested as being something which has qualities about it which can influence the brain. Yeah. So we're amazing creatures as human beings. You know, we've got these incredibly rational brains. The brains possess all kinds of qualities that animals don't have. You know, it's kind of got the old dinosaur brains and all the rest of it going on. And then there's like a more modern IKEA type brain, which is coping with this particular aspect of life and developing into something much more sophisticated. Yeah. So this brain is rational. And of course, what we experience, what gets in the way, are all the kind of defilements, delusions, karmic tendencies, etc. But because mind is not the brain, it is able to influence the brain and change the brain. Now, we all know that through neuroscience. There's been masses done in neuroscience about examining, for instance, meditators, yeah, examining their brains. They can't find their minds, obviously. So they examine their brains and they go, oh, meditators have these super fit brains. You know, they light up in all the right places and they can maintain a sort of stability. They don't get thrown by emotions. And neuroscience is doing everything it can really to kind of understand why that is in a meditator and not in people who don't meditate. And the point being here is that through the practice of meditation, we are empowering the mind. Through the practice of meditation, we are waking up the mind. It is nourished and it is then able to feed ideas to the brain which go against the ego, yeah, which are like the opponent to the ego. It's stronger, it becomes stronger. This intuitive, quiet, invisible energy that is within us is nurtured through meditation. So this is why mind is called pure awareness, pure awareness. And the way to describe it is when it's defined as having these three qualities: luminosity, clarity, and knowing. Yeah? That's the three qualities of the mind. So let's understand what we mean by that. The innate nature of the mind is pure and luminous and clear. Now, luminous is a very interesting word, isn't it? There's light. It has a quality of light, but it reminds us more of moon than sun. So it's not glaring and bright. It's a kind of, opalescent, a kind of a feeling that you can put your hand right through it and that there's nothing there. It is just light. So that's its luminosity. Now, the clarity is the clarity that comes with, just let me get something here which is important. Yeah, let me make sure. Right, have I said everything I need to say about luminosity? Yeah, I've got it also described here in my notes. So this is from me, like a white cloth before anything is printed on it. It's pure, untainted awareness. It's purely energetic. It's like the chi in Tai Chi that is described as the vital energy that is held to animate the body internally. So you can't see it, but with reflective exercises like meditation, you can experience it. And so this, of course, is why it's a mystery to science, because it is only known through experience. Only through experience. They're completely thrown by the fact that you cannot get to grips with it. You can't touch it, you can't see it. So therefore it doesn't exist. That's a very human way of dealing with the world. If we can't experience it with our senses, then it doesn't exist. Okay? So let's look at this second quality of clarity. When we hold something with our mind that is not hindered by any conceptual thought, then there's total clarity of experience. Doesn't need labeling or identification, it just is. When the mind meets an object, my watch sitting there reminding me, when my mind meets this object without the barriers presented by the ego. Now you can see that as soon as I picked up my watch, there's the word my watch. I've labeled it, I've identified with it. If it wasn't there, where's my watch? Yeah. If I saw somebody else with it, you've got my watch. Yeah. Can't do anything without my, and I have attachment to this watch. Yeah. Okay. It's been with me quite a while. It's quite a good one. It works. It's the right size. It's got nice big numbers. So with my eyesight, I can see it. So, but if my mind can meet this object and without any obstacles, there would be unity. There would be this is tricky. There would be unity between my mind and this object. There would be no separation. When the mind meets an object without the barriers presented by our egos, the me that is attaching itself to it, yeah, then we call this experience non-dualistic. Non-dualistic experience. There's no me and watch. There's just watch. Total unity. In other words, there is absence of conceptualization about the watch. Okay? So this clarity creates appearances to the mind. There's a clarity, nothing's stopping me. And there's no obstacles between my mind and the watch. And also, if I was having a thought, or I visualized an object or a place, a beautiful sunny beach, or I'm imagining you, in Santa Fe or Mississippi or wherever you are, that there's nothing that can come between it. That's clarity. Yeah. But what I then do with it, the self-cherishing, the self-grasping I, is create a separation. But the mind has the ability to know objects. It just appears like a mirror. It reflects it. It is me that is making the conceptualization. It is me that is projecting onto this watch. Yeah. So we're thinking about potential here. So it's important to understand clarity here, because if there is clarity of mind, then the the self-grasping I, Ondy Willson, is in the way of experiencing unity with that object. And that object might be a watch. That object might also be the concept of the nature of reality. Yeah, the idea of the nature of reality. So, luminosity is one quality, clarity is the other. Now, its other quality is that it knows objects. So we're able to know an object by meeting it and then labeling it and giving it distinctive features. Yeah. Okay, here it is again. So nothing can stop that labeling. It's able to know objects. It's able to know that the image I have of where you are. Yeah, I can know that. Whatever comes to mind, whether it's physical or mental, I can know it, because that's what mind is. Right, we're going back just slightly here, just to remind ourselves. No, it's not there. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Mind is pure awareness. Okay, mind is pure awareness. Dharmakirti. Mind, the nature of mind is clear. Defilements are adventitious. So if we're going back to my little description of the nature of the mind, having a similarity. It's impossible to get complete understanding of it, like this white cloth before anything's printed on it. When your white cloth sounds quite solid, but it's luminous, okay? So defilements are adventitious. That means they're temporary, they're removable. Just like if you spilt juice on that white cloth, you could wash it out. So anything that comes on, anything that is disturbing the luminosity, clarity, and knowing of objects is temporary. Because when we will realize the true nature of our mind, we will find it as being totally clear, with the ability to have non-duality with objects. Okay, so there they are. Pure untainted awareness, clarity of experience unhindered by projections, knowing objects both physical and of knowledge. Okay, so pause a little bit, make sure you've got that. Now, there's also what's also really important is to know the scope of the mind. So that has three aspects to it as well, which is very useful in terms of remembering. Beginningless, endless, and indestructible, which is also kind of fascinating, isn't it? So the way of talking about this is really to see the connection with the Buddhist teachings on rebirth. Because our minds aren't just hanging around waiting until we're born in this body. Oh, finally I get a chance of living on earth. Yeah. And we live in this body, and then, okay, done that, and now we die. And then this energy just hangs around again. That's not how it is. So for sure, the teachings on rebirth and reincarnation and karma are connected with the scope of the mind. Absolutely vital. Because, yeah, you can develop your mind in one life, but how much? You know, and if you only live to be, I don't know, 6 or 7, you haven't had much of a shot of it, have you? And what about all the animals? You know, do they not get a shot at it either? They're just there for our use. So there's a great deal of teachings that are connected with this understanding of the scope of the mind. Okay. So without continuum, which of course the mind, that's synonymous with mind, our mental continuum, never ending, never beginning. This mind, this energy, this pure awareness is there forever. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? We're not told that about anything else. And really, obviously, you're going to relate to this and think, well, do I believe this? But actually, there's a certain rationality about it. Once we start to experience, for instance, the nature of our mind in meditation, or we start to look at our own experiences in life. Without continuum of mind, result could never follow cause. The chain would be broken. So that means that prior to this, Venerable Dondra asked me to come here. Yeah, there's always a previous cause for an event to happen. If we go to sleep at night, we will wake up in the morning. We will be hungry, we'll have breakfast. Then our digestive system will sort that out, then we'll be hungry again. Without continuum of mind, result could never follow cause. The chain would be broken. Think about that. So if we want to look at this beginninglessness, then for sure we're going against, which is useful to think about because it's a major religion, the Christian, Muslim, Jewish ideas of a creator God. So this is where we part company. Buddhists and Hindus and Sikhs believe in rebirth. Well, they have a different version, but let's not go into that. Buddhists, let's stick to Buddhism. The mind is beginningless. We were not created. There was no starting point. No great being suddenly went, off you go. Well, because they were there, so that would have been a previous cause, wouldn't it? And they would have had a previous cause. So whichever way you look at it, there is always a result that follows a cause. There's no chicken, egg business, which came first. Impossible. Impossible to find it. So because it's pure energy, it's indestructible. So it's not going to end. So for sure, mind has our minds have created the cause to be in this body now. I'm living this life now. Yeah. So here I am. But at some point we can see, the hair's going grey. As much as we would like it not to, it does. The skin is getting wrinkly. And my energy is also physical. My physical energy is frustratingly getting limited. Yeah. So I can see at my age, even though I might have pretended that it was never actually going to happen to me, it might happen to everybody else, but I'm not going to get old. I mean, yeah, I might reach that particular age, but I'll still be the same. And then when you get there, you think, oh my God, I haven't got the energy when I get out of bed in the morning. There's all this stuff going on. Trying to go downstairs, you have to lean on the banister. The body is changing. The body is aging. So for sure, the body is going to die. And this is, it's a big issue for anybody who ever stops to think about life. What's life all about? Oh my God, I'm going to die. My grandchild, woke up one night from a bad dream. Nana, I don't want to die. Well, actually, that's quite a healthy ego. I was quite pleased to hear it. Really. But in another way, it's like, whatever age you are, it's not for sure she's got all these influences around her, but I think it's common. At some point, every human being will go, death. Wow, that's weird. What a weird thing life is, to die. So there's got to be some kind of reasoning going on, what happens. So because we're understanding mind here, let's not forget what we're looking at. Because we're understanding the nature of mind, we're going, okay, so if mind is described by great meditators, the Buddha, who gave the original teachings on mind, that it is beginningless and endless. From his meditation under the Bodhi tree, he announced that no matter how far he looked back, he could not see a first life. I mean, the story is he actually gave up. So maybe he just didn't look long enough. But generally it was like whatever he looked at, there was a previous life. And for sure, they were all creating karmically. He could see the karmic causes of all his lives, which then led him to this one, this final time on earth when he was going to go, right, that's it, I'm not coming back. Not as a human being. Anyway, there are ideas. Was he already Buddha and came? That's the Mahayana view, but that's the life of the Buddha. But that was his experience and his teachings. Life is beginningless and it doesn't end, but it does get purified. Yeah, it gets purified and pure. So once you enter a spiritual path and start to understand our connection, our interdependence with all beings, and start to understand that there is an ego that is grasping onto an identity, start to understand all these facets of what it means to be human, we can then engage with this spiritual path and start to cleanse the mind and find that pure awareness, get in touch with it, develop it, nourish it, meditate, until, of course, we have permeated, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, can't find it. We have managed to get through and find emptiness. Yeah. Emptiness, which is used to describe the true nature of existence. That's another story. Some of you will be aware of it, but it's just a way of understanding ultimate reality, that there is no separate, that everything is unified. We are all unified. And when there is a realization of that, then we can get through. It begins with a P and it's completely lost me. Somebody can tell me later. We can get through and understand the true nature of existence. And then we can take that further to develop our compassion to such a point that those two meet, that wisdom of understanding reality and that compassion meet to create enlightened mind, which is what the Buddha developed. So that is enormous potential. So you need it to be beginningless and endless. You don't want it stopping anywhere. You don't want, okay, well, you've had your chance this life, now you're dead. Tough if you got there or not. No, Buddhism is incredibly magnanimous in that way because it's saying every being will become enlightened. Of course, it's going to take a while. Even for us who are on the path, it will take a while. Some lives. But the more we understand and practice and train the mind, then when our bodies die, when these old bodies die, or when even young bodies die, because remember, sometimes the young die before the dying. We don't know. When they die, this energy continues. And through its karma, through its karma, it will find a new rebirth. Okay. So, I wonder if I've done enough at this point. I always give myself, I'm going to get through more, and I don't, but this might be enough. Yeah, it's 5:45, isn't it? Excuse me while I talk to myself. Let me just give you any notes that I haven't actually said. Right. The mind, the grossness and the subtlety of it is different in different stages of our lives. So just going to touch on this for the moment. Can maybe go into this in another session or later today. So the mind at this level, when it leaves the body, it's not superficially conceptual the way we are now, the way we're meeting objects now, or emotional, but a very subtle mind, So in that way, the mind has different qualities at different stages of its passing in this body into the next life. Yeah. The core of our being that carries all the prerequisites that will ripen in future lives to determine the conditions of our existence and our future happiness and suffering. So that will go on. My daughter, when describing the nature of my mobile phone to me and where all the data went when the phone died, she said, well, you've got the body of the mind and then you've got the what do they call it, that little thing that goes inside there you go, words are going again. Anyway, you can remind me of that. But basically, the phone has data inside it, the SIM card, that's what I'm looking for. So when the phone's dead, you just take the SIM card out, all the data's on it, and then there's a new phone, and you put the data in that. Well, that's very similar to what happens with us, isn't it? Our bodies die, and all that data comes out on our very subtle mind and goes into the new body. Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough. Let's see what I've got on here. Yeah, well, I've kind of gone into that, really, the potential of the mind, the nature of enlightened mind is within us all, and the seed, when nourished, grows, and all are capable of enlightenment. So I've already done that. And I've already hinted as well at what we will go on to is to look at how the meditations that we do and the practices that we engage in are to cut the bonds of karma and afflictions. Yeah. And to recognize as well that we're programmed. We're really programmed by our karma to make mistakes, the same mistakes. And our greatest suffering is change, really, clinging to that which will fail us in the future. And I've got just a lovely little story to finish with here before we have some discussion. We need to be members of the spa in the Lake District. You know, it's cold and the winters are wet, and it's really nice to go to a swimming pool or a jacuzzi. Anyway, I was there last night with some of my family, and there was this gentleman there covered in tattoos, and one of us got kind of talking about what were the pictures, and he said, "Oh, there's pictures over pictures here." Because he was an older, don't think as old as me, but he was older. Pictures over pictures, and he said, you know, there was a name that I had. He said, basically, I wish I'd never had it done. Now, I wish I'd never had the tattoos because I had this name put on, and then of course I had to have that covered, and I put another name on. And then I actually had that covered in another name, and then I thought, that's it. You can't stop change. It's just this ordinary guy, and he said, I wish I'd never had it done. And I thought, that's amazing, isn't it? Because having tattoos is just like we are. We think this person who we're attached to, ourselves or a partner, friend, whatever, it's going to be there forever. And we want them to. So we like tattoo them onto ourselves. And then when they change, it's like, what do? We don't go, oh, the suffering of change. Everything is impermanent. No, what do? We find somebody else to slap on. So we never learn. We just go on and on, changing the names and hoping that the next person or the next thing, whatever it is we're getting attached to, is going to last. Never really recognizing that it's all going to fail us, all of it. And that's not depressing, because he said, you know, I just wish I'd never had it done. And what freedom that would have given him. Instead of having to carry this around. Interesting. Okay, anyway, I thought I'd share that little story. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now. There we are. And I thought it would be nice for you to get into groups. Do you do that? Somebody nod, or maybe Alexis come back on, and can you get in?
Sorry, Ondy, we do get into groups. Everybody will have to give me, I'll put their seatbelts on because I haven't done this for a long time. So if I accidentally kick you off, just come back on. But there was a question. Would you like to take questions now, or would you like to take them later on?
I think later, because
Okay.
it might be resolved in the discussion.
Okay.
And in the discussion, just until about 6 o'clock, 10, what should we say? 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. So you're finding it as a nice teaching. Anything coming up for you that you want to raise?
I like the idea of, you know, to reinforce that I do actually have the potential. You know, it's not just out there for other people. I like the luminosity part of the brain. You know, I just imagine in Santa Fe, we have luminarias on Christmas and to the holidays, and their lights. Well, farolitos are lights in bags, and they line the streets so you can see your way. The luminarias, every now and then there will be a bonfire. And it just kind of reminds me of, here's the path to Buddhism or to enlightenment, you know, the luminous part of the mind. So for me, that was something that kind of, I love that vision, you know. So in that sense, it's good, you know. Yeah, I like that.
But I was interested when you commented there, you said that the luminous nature of the brain.
Of the, yeah.
No, but I just wonder, because we do this, don't we? Because it is our solid thing.
Yeah.
Are we visualizing our brains as being luminous? Where do you visualize your mind?
You know, that's a good question, because now that I'm thinking about it, I do visualize it coming from here, even though I know it's not the solid brain, but then the heart too.
Yes.
I kind of see it from the heart coming out, lighting the path. But initially, I think what I saw was coming from here, but then coming out from the heart to light my way as well, you know, and at some point in whatever lifetime, reaching the compassion, wisdom together, you know. So.
What about you, Alexis? How are you doing with this?
I always feel like it's the dance of the thousand veils, where you just like, you have all of these filters in front of you to understanding enlightenment. And I just feel like it's like flinging them off and slowly flinging them off. And it was only this year when I had a very hard time in practice, when you're visualizing emptiness and being part of, the universe. And to me, until this year, it made me freak out in a way. Just like I would stop, because I just felt like I would get lost and just disappear. It just, like, I completely just shut down. And finally, I swear, in the last month, I finally have been feeling kind of like buoyant in the idea of me being, because I just picture it like me as particles interacting with other particles that are moving around, and just kind of loving just being that big. And it's kind of weird to me, but I don't know. I finally have, it's just an interesting, it's uncomfortable, but it's like my toe is getting used to the water of that idea, if that makes sense.
Nice way of describing it. And it's the ego, isn't it, that gets very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
The ego within us will do anything to make everything solid about us.
Mm-hmm.
And to build up all those walls of what, our work, our family, our home, our ideas about things. It will just do anything it can to make it solid. So it will be uncomfortable. But in the same way that when we're training the mind, getting through discomfort is training. You're learning a new skill all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You might be comfortable with anger or jealousy. You might not like it, but the mind will be comfortable because it goes there all the time. So to suddenly stop going there, or to try to stop going there, is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get to a point, I think, where we think, well, if I haven't got all these aspects of myself, then who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're defilements, they're me.
They're my defilements.
They're my defilements. Yes, exactly. I am who I am. This is me. So it is an uncomfortable process. And they do say that the whole, the idea of Maras, these Maras that come to you, or people like Eckhart Tolle saying that, well, he went into the darkest, most horrible place before the dawn, before the dawning. Yeah, really. So, it's a real adventure.
It is, and it's interesting, because I've been reading a lot about a different kind of business model called it's basically a birth to birth idea of running businesses, where you think of the end result creating something, you think of all the people who are making it, who are being affected by it, the environment. So it's a circular, it's called, I forgot what it's called, but it's like a circular way of seeing life. Instead of like consuming until something is dead, it's a circular way of seeing things. And it's very, I think it kind of aligns with Buddhism in that you're seeing the entire perspective of everything that is affected by it, and how little changes affect everything else. It's interesting to read both of those, to read that and try to get into emptiness.
Well, I
And
think,
let go of the veils.
yeah, well, I think what happens is when you understand or you come into contact with Buddhist teachings, you see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It is like the veils start coming off.
Mm-hmm.
They do, because you can't relate to things the way that you used to. You know, once you understand the nature of reality, or you start to get a feeling for who we are, what we're trying to do, what, you know, the illusion, if you like, of the world around us, there's no way back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's true. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We feel its truth in our hearts. We feel that truth. It's not like, oh, well, I'll test this out. No, that doesn't work. You just go, whoa, this is so true, because it's my experience. Your experience. It's our experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel as if, like, after becoming a Buddhist, my view of death changed. And I know this is just kind of like a lingering thing, kind of like dust, where I feel like my idea of death changed. And so I don't have these like high emotions about it. And I almost feel like, am I being too cold? You know, am I indifferent to people's suffering? Because I don't see it as an end anymore. I see it as something completely different. And I don't know. I mean, I'll have to like meditate on that and figure out if I'm just putting up a false wall of being hard, or if it's just a truth that I've just kind of concluded to, that there is no end. If that makes sense.
There is no end, but people, you know, you can for sure warm it up with compassion, because people are terrified.
Mm-hmm.
The fear around death, and also for people left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a way, the person that goes, whatever age or whoever they are, they're gone. And you might be able to do a few prayers for them, but they're on their way. It's the people who are grieving. As you know, that's our compassion. And then that's also when you hear all kinds of strange stories about what has gone, you know, whether they believe is anything after death, whether they believe in a soul or a spirit. You know, you hear so many kind of confused ideas, because a lot of people are in a secular framework. So they can make of it what they wish. They can have a bit of this and a bit of that, and you know, make it up. It's gone into the trees, or, you know, she's there above us looking down. And it all becomes, I think, a little bit shaky, very shaky, because there's no rational approach to it, whereas Buddhism does give that. And so does Christianity. Religions, you know, have their ways, but because we're living in such a largely secular world, people kind of make up their own ideas about death.
A lot of superstition, which we all have, a lot of superstition.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, are we getting towards our 15 minutes? Shall we get?
I have like 2 minutes left. I'm gonna send them a little note to conclude.
Right, that's great. Thank you.
And I'll see how that works.
What they're doing, what we're going to get from it. Oh my God.
Alexis, I want you to come see the new center when it opens.
I know, I do too.
Is that in Santa Fe, Nancy?
Yes, and you're welcome as well. We'd love to have you.
I would love to come one day. Oh.
Yeah, I love Santa Fe. but we're hoping at the end of February we'll be open. So it's going to be beautiful.
Oh, how lovely. Is it bigger?
It's big. We were renting a place, and I guess before I started, they had rented some other places that were smaller. And so we bought a Seventh-day Adventist church, and Charmaine, our center director, and Venerable Robina, genius, went in and we've refurbished the whole thing. And they're really, I think it's going to be marvelous.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I can't even visualize New Mexico. I just
Well,
see
Think of all the Westerns.
but you know, it's
Westerns
like
you've seen.
I was up on the ski hill in the autumn and there had been just a little snow, and I took a picture of all the beautiful yellow trees and I sent it to my niece and her boyfriend in Oregon, and Mike wrote back and said, "That's New Mexico." And then I was driving along between Pojoaque and Los Alamos, where it's kind of the brush, and said, "Yes, this is also New Mexico."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people envision as kind of cactus and Wile E. Coyote, you know.
Yes.
But it has, you know, it's a dichotomy of stuff, you know.
Yeah, interesting.
We have mountains and
Okay, so 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. I'd love to do a meditation. Let's see how this goes, whether we've got time for that. Any questions? So any questions coming in that you would like to? If you just raise your hand, then you can be unmuted, I think. No, you?
I had a question from Phoebe. I can read it to you.
Yes, I saw that, but read it out for the group.
Okay, great. I would like to ensure I understand this idea, please. We know that the law of the conservation of energy is true. Do we consider that the mind is this energy? Also, if there is no creator of the mind, is it considered by Buddhism to be arisen rather than created?
Ooh, arisen. Okay. Well, yes, it's energy. That's how we understand it. And you can't destroy energy. It has to go somewhere else. So, yeah, I would say that. I don't know whether it comes under that definition, but in the discussions and the teachings that I've had, and I understand it, that is the best description of mind, is that it is pure energy, which of course tallies with the qualities and the scope of it. Yeah. And in terms of it not being created, is it arisen? I don't know what that means. Arisen. It always was. And that's difficult, isn't it? Energy that always was. Energy that always had a previous cause and form of some description. Yeah. That's a tricky one. And I guess until we have enlightened mind ourselves, unless anybody who is experienced here would be able to add to that, I'm not aware we can describe it in any other way. Any contributions? Or I said what it is. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments about the discussion that you would like to contribute at this moment? Are we all okay? Did we feel a sense of our own clarity? Can you nod or just, are we all right with it? Is anybody sitting there who's like, oh my God, it's not the brain? Are we all okay with that? Because that's the biggest thing, is understanding the difference. So you all look happy. I can't see three of you. You're sitting there secretly. But nevertheless, I'm assuming that you're nodding. That's the most positive way of that. So that's great. So we're all right with that. Oh, there you are, Kim. That's great. Lovely to see you. I know sometimes we just have a bad hair day and we don't want to be seen. I'm not saying that you have, but I know the feeling. That's the beauty of Zoom, isn't it? We can zoom in or zoom out. Right. Well, I'm presuming there then that I'd like to sort of ask a question and see if anybody has anything to say about it, because I'd like to hear your voices in the discussion. Is what do you feel is the best way of understanding the potential of our minds from the teaching about the mind? What does it give us that helps us have confidence in that we can develop it? The teachings on the mind, what have they given us, or what do they give us? Why are there teachings on the nature of the mind that help us? Right, Barbara.
This is a real simple analogy that I've learned through the teachings, but boy, does it resonate with me. And it's the analogy of the acorn becoming the oak tree.
Yeah.
In all of the conditions that need to be in place for that to happen. And to me, the teachings, the practices, all of that is that nurturing so that that can happen.
Yeah, yeah. And the inevitability of it, if it's nourished, it's got the, if there's sunlight, the sunlight of the Dharma, if you like, and the nourishment, you're watering it, you're continually developing it, then it will grow into this oak tree. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful and simply put, but very important. Anything else that anybody wants to contribute there? Yes, Bobby.
One of the things that really attracted me to Buddhism in the very beginning when I was learning, besides some friends saying, this is the fit for you, is the idea that everybody has Buddha nature. Like when I really spent time thinking about that, it absolutely blew my mind, really. Because I think that we're much more than bodies. I've always thought that, but the idea that this was in many ways an egalitarian belief system, that anybody and everybody could develop their mind in that way, that's my hook, still my hook.
Yeah. It is, it's beautiful. And I think there is an intuitive response to that, isn't there? That somehow, wow, we're bringing in even that little ant over there. We're bringing in everything that is sentient and what we know about cyclic existence and who is out there. Right. I'm coming to Danny in a minute, but yeah, just to add to that, is that it is this magnanimous aspect of Buddhism that no one and nothing is excluded, which of course brings us into our everyday practice, that we're not excluding anybody either. Yeah, that everybody and everything is within our practice. That's how we can do it on an everyday basis. Thank you very much. Now, Danny, I just had a chat here and I'm just going to read that. We study the nature of mind to discern independent arising and emerge from ignorance. Dependent arising, yeah? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And to emerge from ignorance, the ignorance of our defilements, which is destroyed by understanding emptiness. Thank you, Danny. Yeah. Okay. Unless anybody's desperate, I'm desperate to do a meditation with you. Yeah. So can we do that? Yes, thank you, Danny. Yes, the 12 links of dependent origination. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let's do a meditation on the nature of the mind. So if you would just like to relax, and for the last quarter of an hour, We'll just take this into our hearts. So we're bringing all this information in our heads down into our hearts. So a few deep breaths. Relax the body. Find your posture. And just do a couple of minutes of mindfulness meditation, just following the breath and letting all that stimulation just come to rest. You make a powerful motivation. For example, you could think, I'm going to investigate the nature of my mind for the purpose of deepening my understanding of who and what I am. This will help me destroy the ignorance and enable me to benefit others. So in this meditation, we're just investigating the scope of the mind, this idea, beginningless, indestructible nature of it, the continuum. So take your mind back in steps to as early in your life as you can imagine. Your memory will bear witness that there is a continuous thread from one moment to the other. There are no spaces, no beginnings or endings. It's not like episodes of the mind, but a very long movie with no pee-pee breaks. If you find yourself getting caught up in a memory, just notice, let it sit, and continue to go back. Pleasant or unpleasant, just remain observant. Rational, I'll move on. And when you can go back no further, use your creative imagination to take you into that baby self in your crib, in the arms of your mother or father, carer. You may be reminded of photographs of yourself. Recognizing that you didn't just jump into existence, you evolved. Go back even further, imagining yourself as a fetus in your mother's womb. Did you just jump in? Did it come from sperm or egg? Your body started with this physical growth. What about your mind? That very subtle energy. Consider that matter cannot produce mind energy. That you joined this union, this physical manifestation of your karmic effects. It's your little SIM card of a mind moved into the new body. All the data there. Again, with a mind that has arisen out of its own previous continuity, in accordance with the natural law of cause and effect. And consider the possibility of beginningless, endless continuity of mind, luminous, clear, and knowing. And feel that in your heart, and expand your heart, feeling the center of your body level with your heart, this incredible source of energy and potential. So pure, pure awareness, pervading every aspect of your body and wherever you wish to place this awareness. Just rest in that blissful feeling of the power of your mind. And so great is the power of our mind that we can send this energy anywhere we wish to each other, different parts of the country, of the world, connection. And to all those who are in need, in pain, suffering. Through their ignorance, through physical ailments, through disability, through cultural restrictions, whatever. precious mind of your compassion. Meeting the rationality of your developing brain. And as you gradually bring it back, feel so incredibly grateful for who you are and what you can do, the power of your goodness. And dedicate all the wonderful ways our minds have been working this morning for you, or this afternoon, this evening for me, together. And the good we have generated together. May we all quickly destroy our delusions and quickly become enlightened for the benefit of all suffering sentient beings. And end your meditation when you're ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ondy. Thank you, Venerable
you.
Dondrob, and thank you,
Thank you.